Okay, one thing I think is important to address when we're thinking about the relationship between a university degree and a career is a very common misconception. And this is the idea that you go to university to get career specific training. That's what your degree is supposed to do. It's supposed to show you how to do the job that you're ultimately going to do. And this, I think, is the misconception that often underlies this question. Oh, so you're studying that. What are you going to do with that? I remember dreading that question when I was an undergraduate. I studied philosophy, and people would often ask me that question. Oh, a degree in philosophy, what are you going to do with that? I don't think they had any idea how much anxiety that provoked in me because I didn't know, like, what am I going to do with this? Is this a bad idea? What am I doing? So I really wish someone had told me then what I now know, which is that you don't go to university to be prepared for a specific career. You go to university to acquire skills that are transferable across a variety of domains. So that's what I want to talk to you about in this video. To step back a little bit, let's talk about the liberal arts more broadly. Now, all the degrees that we offer at the Interdisciplinary Studies Center are liberal arts degrees. Liberal arts is just the English translation of the Latin phrase artes liberales. Liber is the Latin root that we translate as free. So the idea behind the liberal arts tradition was that these are the things that you need to know to be a free citizen or to be someone who can think and act freely. And essentially what the liberal arts tradition has always taught has been a combination of the humanities and the sciences, which, as I said in the last video, is exactly what you have access to when you do a degree at the Interdisciplinary Studies Center. Okay, so the liberal arts degree was the dominant mode of education in Europe from about 1088 to 1800, but then that changed, and the change came about largely because of the brilliant economist and philosopher from the Scottish Enlightenment, Adam Smith. Now, he wrote a very influential book you may have heard of called The Wealth of Nations. It's a founding text in modern theory of economics. And part of what Smith argued for in that work was that a modern economy needs workers who have specialized training. So this ultimately was taken up by the universities in a variety of countries, especially in the United Kingdom. And it led to a rejection of the liberal arts model, this idea that an education should be some combination of the humanities and the sciences, and led towards this model of specialization, which is what we have now, 3 years of studying the same thing with the same people. Now, the problem is there has never actually been a fit between the jobs that you can get and the degrees that you can study. So the world of work is commonly divided up into three sectors. There's the private sector, where you have profit-driven corporations; the public sector, government-run organizations that provide benefits and services for the entire community; and then third sector organizations, which are kind of a combination. They're run by trustees, so they're not run by the government, but they aim at the public good. They're not for profit. Now, in my other column here, you have degrees, different things that you can study at university, like physics, economics, philosophy, literature, biology, and so on. None of these degrees in this column map on perfectly to any job that you can get. This idea from Smith that you can just sort of pluck someone out of university and then plug them into a job that they've been specifically trained to do, it never really came to pass. It was an interesting idea, but it's not the way things actually work. And so there are actually very few jobs that any degree will specifically train you to do. Now, you might say not so fast. There are degree programs that specifically train you to do particular jobs: nursing, medicine, law, computer programming, business, and so on. That's right. These degrees are more targeted towards training and preparing people for those specific jobs. But it's still not a situation where someone can pluck you up out of university and put you in a job that you're ready to do at day one. Most people learn the majority of what they do on the job. So my brother, for example, is a computer programmer. He studied computer engineering as an undergraduate, but he has told me every single job he has ever done, he had to learn all the languages, all the coding languages that he used at those jobs by himself. It's also the case that You can study law at the undergraduate level, but you can also take a conversion course and sort of study one intensive year so that you can study something that perhaps you're more interested in when you're an undergraduate. Of course, if the law is is the thing that sort of sets you on fire and that's the thing that you want to study, by all means do it. But if it isn't, you can still become a lawyer even if you don't study it as an undergraduate. Also, the idea that some people might have that if you want to work in the corporate sector, you need to get a degree in business. Well, that's not necessarily true. So, for example, I did my undergraduate degree in Seattle in the late 90s. And so a lot of the people that I graduated with are now executives in the corporation known as Amazon, because Amazon was kind of just starting up in Seattle, Washington, at the time when me and my friends were graduating from university. And a lot of them went and got jobs there. And they didn't study business. They studied what I studied. They studied philosophy or some other in the humanities. So it's not the case that you have to study business in order to go into the world of business. Now, another thing to think about is that we don't know what the future of jobs is going to look like. So we don't know which jobs, for example, innovations in technology will take away. So if you read about these things, as I do, because I work at the university and I recruit students, you'll see that a lot of people think that artificial intelligence is going to replace a lot of the jobs that are currently done by lawyers or solicitors. And artificial intelligence is going to replace a lot of the computer programming jobs. So a lot of the jobs that were sort of secure and a really good idea 10 years ago might not exist 10 or 15 years from now. So that's something to think about. And we also don't know what sort of jobs that new technology will create. For example, 15 years ago, when people went to university, nobody thought that they were going to be a social media influencer. No one thought that they were going to make their living by taking photos of themselves on Instagram. And also, people didn't think that there would be marketing programs within large corporations whose mandate is to get social influencers on board so that they can use them as a vehicle for marketing. Okay, then. So, what does a degree give you? If it doesn't give you job specific training, what does it offer? We know that it offers something. Why? How do we know that? Because people who have an undergraduate degree tend to make more money than people who don't. They get what economists call a wage premium. They have higher wages than people who don't go to university on average. So that means they must give you something because the job market doesn't reward you for nothing. You don't get paid more money for nothing. That's one thing that economists are certain of. So we know that people who graduate with an undergraduate degree tend to make more money than people who don't. You might think, well, that's only for the STEM people, right? That's only for people in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But again, that's a common misconception. You would be wrong if you thought that. As a matter of fact, humanities majors do increasingly well over the course of their careers. So here's data from a study that was conducted and reported on in the Wall Street Journal, using data from a very large company called PayScale, which keeps track of what people study and how much money they make. They found that liberal arts students ultimately do as well or better than majors in other fields. For example, someone who studies liberal arts might have a starting salary of $42,000 a year, which is lower than the starting salaries for people who study business and accounting. But ultimately, as you can see from those numbers, that those people on average end up earning higher salaries. So the wage premium is real, and it applies to liberal arts students just as well as students from other disciplines. So what's going on here? If you don't get job specific training, what do you get that accounts for this increase in wage? Okay, so there are two major economic theories that attempt to explain what's happening here. One is the human capital model. So this is the idea that to get a degree, you have to acquire and demonstrate that you possess certain skills. That's how you get the marks that you need and get all the credits that you need to graduate. You show people that you have what it takes to succeed at university. And to do that, you need certain skills. And so if you want to think about this metaphorically, you could think of the university as a place that applies pressure and sort of where students are the coal, and gradually under the pressure that the university puts on them, demanding them to study and learn and so forth, they gradually turn into diamonds. Now, another model is the signaling theory, and this is the idea that a degree sends a signal that you possess certain abilities. So the idea here is that people already have the abilities, either they have them or they don't. And then the university, instead of being pressure that turns coal into diamonds, the university is more like the appraiser. It tells people on the job market, right, firms that want to hire employees, here's the coal and here's the diamonds. So those are two different theories. I think the safe bet is just to assume that they're both true to a certain extent. The university definitely gives students new skills and helps them develop skills that they already have. But getting a university degree also sends a variety of signals to potential employers. It shows that you have what it takes to show up every day and do what's demanded of you and to succeed. What are the skills that you get from the degrees that we offer? These degrees in global studies, social change, American studies, European studies, and liberal arts. Well, according to the World Economic Forum, the top 10 skills that employers are going to be looking for are the following 10. They'll be looking for complex problem solving skills, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment, negotiation, cognitive flexibility, and a service orientation. Of these 10, studying with us will really help you develop at least the first 9. I don't think that studying with us will help you develop a service orientation. I'm not even exactly sure what that entails, but we will definitely help you develop the first 9 skills in a very rich way. So why are these the skills that everybody's going to be looking for in 2020 and beyond? Well, the idea in the report from the World Economic Forum was that these are things that technology will not eliminate a need for. Computers are not going to replace the need for complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and all of these people-oriented skills. Computers in the near future are simply never going to be as good as human beings are at these particular skills. Maybe in the distant future, but in the future that we can currently imagine, no one working in artificial intelligence is willing to say that computers will replace these things. So how will our degrees help you develop these skills? Well, we're going to be focusing on real world problems that require complex, big picture thinking, where you move across a variety of disciplines, taking the best of the different methods and ideas from those disciplines. You're not going to be just circling around one particular discipline and staying within its boundaries when you study with us. Instead, you'll be going across a variety of disciplines. And the idea, what I want to suggest, is that by doing this kind of work, by focusing on these big picture problems and by working across these different disciplines, you are really going to develop complex problem solving skills, critical thinking, creativity, and cognitive flexibility. And what about the other sort of person-directed skills that are going to be important in the future job market? Well, in the majority of our modules, students will always have an element of discussion, right? We call them seminars, where students come having done reading, having listened to a lecture, and then they have a conversation with their peers about the ideas that were discussed that week. And I cannot stress to you how amazing it is how much our students develop throughout the course of their education. When they come to us in their first year, a lot of them don't really want to say anything at this seminar. And then by the end of their degree in their third year, they're remarkably articulate, they're more confident in speaking in front of a group, and they really can clearly and confidently assert their view on some of the different things that we're discussing, often very quite complicated things. They also will get the opportunity to give presentations, which is a really important skill when it comes to communicating clearly with other people. And students are also given the opportunity to work collaboratively in groups with other students. And we don't just throw students into these things. We do. These are things that students are expected to do, but we prepare them, we give them guidance, And we teach them how to do it by modeling it ourselves. And so our students really get an incredible opportunity to develop these interpersonal skills, these skills for coordinating with other people and for developing their emotional intelligence and their capacity for judgment and to negotiate with other people. In summary, then, studying with us at the Interdisciplinary Studies Center will give you a great opportunity to develop at least 9 of the top 10 skills that employers are going to be looking for in the near future and beyond. And if you want to learn more about what degrees like these have to offer and what sort of skills you can develop while studying on them, I'd really highly recommend these 2 books, You Can Do Anything and A Practical Education. They sort of show you the power of a liberal arts education and the sort of thing that we offer here at the Interdisciplinary Studies Center. That's all for now. I really appreciate your time and attention. My email address is here, mbirch@essex.ac.uk. Feel free to reach out to me if you want more information about studying with us and about what our degrees can offer you. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoy the career week.